difficulties today. Again, it is Tuesday, August 11th. This is The Ultimate Remedy. My name's LB Bork, your host, and we'll be around for 2 hours talking about the red vortex and the red faction that keeps it going. And I got my friend Nathan with me today. He goes by Nathaniel. He's in Ohio, and he's been with PAC about 5 years now, I think. I don't know. Are you there, Nathan?
Yes, I am, LB.
Are you getting some echoing, you say?
Yeah, I am.
Wow. Wonder what happened.
It's coming and going. It like if you have a pause and then all of a sudden you talk again, it's echoing.
My voice is echoing? How about the
Yes.
chat room? Can you give us a sound check there in the chat room, please? Yeah, time's flying today, we know. Yeah. I hate these technical difficulties. Why can't things go perfect? Yeah, we had almost a tornado yesterday, I think. We were on the phone talking, you and me, and the phone went out because the power went out. Came on at 1:30 in the morning, which I think the guys at the power company did a pretty good job on getting it back up. But anyway, yeah, still waiting for some kind of message from the chat room. Can you hear us in there? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of out of sorts because of what happened last night. And yeah, Saul just said it's good. Thank you, Saul. Yeah, we got 38 online. That's pretty good for the chat room. There was 50 over the weekend that I noticed. That's pretty rare. Well, as long as we were talking about the chat room, well, why don't we shout out to the people there? Thanks, guys, for being with us. Cat Dog Girl, Brian Rule. He's in Studio B doing a program. Saul, thanks, Saul, for the call out. Basement 5, Blasphemous Buddha, Too Far Gone. That would be, I think, me. Maybe you too, Nathan. But anyway, Philip, Factor Theory, Greg, Gillespie of DC, Mr. Rose here. I haven't heard much from him lately. Give us a shout, Mr. Rowe. Scorpio's there, supposedly. Eagle Flower, Merbailey, Boy Solomon Rudolph, plant manager. Is that an industrial disease type thing, plant manager, or what are you up to? Flippy, Wes, wow, just tons of people today. Anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us. This is Revolution Radio. This is The Ultimate Remedy once more. My name's LB Bork, and we'll be talking about the red faction and its red vortex. And if you're new to the station, we are listener supported, so we could use your help with donations because unlike YouTube and some of these other platforms, which I've tried to stay away from it with PAC because they just dictate what you can say and can't say. And that's one good thing about Revolution Radio. We can pretty much say what we want. We're not censored. We don't have advertisers, and the advertisers would be you because you would be paying us donation money, which keeps the advertising away. And we need you to advertise the station and share it with friends. That would be great. So if you go to the station at freedomslips.com and hit the donations button at the top of the page, we'd really appreciate it. Also, you can do a snail mail donation. That's at the bottom of the page, and that's sent to Terry Ackerman in Michigan. You can get the address there, and she'll be glad to process that for you. I can't even talk. I never can talk. Process that for you and give you a big thanks, I'm sure. I want to talk about donations for PAC. If you want to go to the PAC website and give us a donation, we got a lot going on in the near future. We're doing a new project. Plus, I still plan on serving Congress with the Red Amendment so they can stop this plausible deniability crap that they operate off of. Anyway, with that said, Nathan, tell us about your day. Let's just have a little chat here.
Yeah, it was all right. I got some work done today.
Yeah.
Work's always good when it's done in the right context. Beyond that, I mean, I sat down and chatted with one of my smarter friends, and he was we got into the topic of the Red Amendment and law and everything else, and he was explaining to me how majority rules and the way that the society is set up right now is completely contingent on everybody going lockstep with it. I said, well, that's the problem. I was like, everybody keeps going lockstep with something they know is wrong.
Yep. Well, Republican freedom was set up to save us from that. But unfortunately, it's gotten so bad that the majority rule, which is the idiots, are taking us down into the red vortex, right?
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. I mean, everything that's going on in the political world is all just static to take us away from the truth. Everything. I mean, I can't name one thing that politics actually gets right, because everything they do is wrong. But everybody eats it up, and they think that they got to go out and go vote, and then they just become more in tune with that vortex. I mean, no one knows what's up, down, left, or right anymore.
That's true. What do you think about all these protests going on? They call them peaceful protests, or the media does. But really, they're riots.
Yeah, they are. But the one thing I have to sit back and look at more in a wide-angle lens, when I really take in the idea of Black Lives Matter, which is the contingency of what these riots are basically started and spawned from. But the black people who are partaking in Black Lives Matter, they don't realize they're segregating themselves worse than ever before. Anybody part of the Black Lives Matter is segregating themselves. They might as well put a bullseye on their back.
Yeah, I think that's part of the, purpose of it. I believe they're all orchestrated, of course. They're Marxist factions. I mean, they even admit it on their website, or some of the websites. I don't know about all of them. To be honest, I don't get into that, or I don't waste a lot of time on it, because I know it's there and can't do much about it, because people aren't, the so-called silent majority aren't talking about it much.
I'm not going to name names or nothing, but I have encompassed some people in my immediate circle that were never racist until now.
Really?
Just saying. Oh, yeah. They can't stand it. But they don't see the bigger picture that the whole Black Lives Matter is, what you just said, secretly funded by who knows. And they don't see
Synagogue of Satan.
Well,
or the
yes.
red, what I call the red faction. The deep state, or the shadow governments doing it, to the likes of George Soros, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of the funding comes from that side of the fence.
It does too. I mean, but you might as well. I mean, when you sit there and you say George Soros, now you have to look at his affiliations and his political aspects. And I could sit back and tell you that I guarantee he has dinner with a Rothschild.
No, it's Synagogue of Satan.
Right. I mean, that Synagogue of Satan is a cloud term, but I think with as many people that are part of the Synagogue of Satan, it needs to come time, or it's come time to start calling people out by their name instead of just putting cloud effect.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know. Like I said, that we have free speech here, but I still like to talk a little. I don't know. obscure, I guess. Still, might be some new people listening that might get upset if you talk too much about certain things. But I was told to stop that years ago because I would offend people. But if you want to get things fixed, how are you going to get them fixed if you don't talk about the problem?
Well, truth.
Yep.
And they crucified our Savior for speaking the truth. So what's that show? I mean, everybody wants to sit there and use that mantra, do what Jesus did. Well, I'm here to tell you, not anybody's doing what Jesus did as of right now. Very, very small people are doing that. And by looking at the truth in a wide angle lens, you can take it in from all angles. But if you look at it in a very, very small tunnel vision type, you're never going to see what the world truly is around you.
That's right.
So
you like myself said you started waking up at a younger age.
Oh, absolutely.
For whatever reason.
Well, my mom and dad and family members all partake in politicking when I was younger, and by doing so, I have a very, very good memory. So I remember all their arguments, and I remember all their different little things that happened at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, and all the other holidays that the family got together. And I really took it all in. And it made me realize, well, all this is just argument for the sake of argument, because nothing's getting changed, nothing's getting done. They just sit there and they talk. Well, that turned me into what I am today, which is it pretty much laid the groundworks and the foundation for me to understand that law is not political, and politics is not law.
No, they're two different things, and that's how these people, I call the red faction, keep things going. By deception in law and the way they talk, the politics, emotions, that's how they drag people in. And there's a maxim of law that says sometimes the law sleeps, but it never dies. And Americans have let it die because of their ignorance of the law. And of course, there's a maxim of law also that goes, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So basically, these people that run things have their work cut out for them. They're dealing with an ignorant lot of people,
Yes.
And it's their fault because they've opted for socialism. Maybe we should talk a little bit about that. People seem to be really confused about what socialism is.
I don't know how, but you are correct. I really don't understand why people are delusional about socialism. I almost believe they don't want to believe it as socialism, so I think they're making up anything else they possibly can to call it something that it's not. And that's the only thing I can
like what? They don't even know. It's like the anti-fascist are, rioting right now, but does an American even know that the United States government is technically fascist? Or the system of the political system?
With that said, LB, every American man or woman should be flying their flag upside down, showing that we are in an emergency. America is right now screwed. And they should be flying their flag upside down, and that should be something to unite the people, to rally behind, to take our nations back.
Yeah. Some people were doing that years ago, and people would get upset about that. They thought it was disrespect to the flag. But an upside down flag only means nation in distress.
Right. Correct.
And people don't understand that. They don't think there's any distress, really. Some of them don't. I think they're feeling it now, as to a few years back.
Well, the ones that wear the mask or the ones that don't wear the mask?
Who knows? They all do it. I have a friend here in town that's worse than most of them. I think he's a hypochondriac in some senses, but
Well, I went to Lowe's today and I actually talked to some people not wearing masks, and they're right in tune with what we're in tune with.
really,
Oh yeah,
that's
they
good.
are. They are. They understand that there's a serious festering problem right now,
Right.
and they get the fact that it is the government, but they also, in the same breath, where they're confused, is they actually believe Trump can fix this.
It's
And
up to
that,
the people to fix it.
well, everybody thinks that Trump is the people. Trump is the voice of the people. And I'm sitting there like, well, yeah, obviously they don't know Marxist communism because he is a Marxist communist. And there's
Sure
no
wears red ties a lot.
yeah.
The first seminar I did over 20 years ago, I talked about the Red Tie Club, because back in the 90s, a lot of the politicians started wearing red. And along with the women, they'd come out with these red dresses on. And they're just useful idiots, what I call the red faction. And
Right.
they don't even know what they're doing. It was introduced to them as the power color. And it's really the power of the Rothschild shield. Rothschild.
Right.
The Rothschild's red shield.
Well,
And
now,
they don't even know it.
well, now that we're on the tip of that iceberg, people don't understand that Trump, or I shouldn't even use Trump, I should just say the presidency of the U.S., is controlled by the IMF. And people don't understand how and why the IMF is in control of the presidency. And that's where I'm going to connect a couple dots for people, where the Federal Reserve is a private banking institution that is owned by the IMF. The two factions of IMF, or I should say the two factions of Federal Reserve, are IRS and Secret Service. The IRS takes the money from the people. The Secret Service makes sure the president isn't doing anything stupid. It's called protecting their investment. So they're protecting the investment of the CEO of the United States of America, which is, just so happens to be, the President of the United States. So with that being said, how can't people connect the dots to realize that if the UK, which is the United Kingdom, and London, has the IMF stationed there, why can people not connect the dots to understand that we are controlled by England? We are controlled by London. We are controlled by these bankers, these oligarchs. How do not people see this?
Well, because they're watching movies on Netflix.
Well, yeah, aren't we all?
I do, but I like to watch them for propaganda. And there's sure enough of that lately in movies. I was doing a little writing today and, thinking back on The Matrix, how that was even propaganda. And all these people that are red-pilled today are just being taken deeper into the red vortex by the red faction. Even Ron Paul was pushing the Mises Institute, which is basically, they're behind all this destruction of borders and elimination of tariffs so the capitalists can make more money. Intrude into different countries. Trump's done something, he's knocked off or pruned back world communism, which is basically what I just described. Open trade for capitalists to make more money, go into countries and destroy small business and dominate.
Right. Well, and what did I say long ago when Trump first got into office? I said Trump is a federalist, but he's a new age federalist, which means he's a globalist.
Right.
And him being a globalist, all he really cares about is the bottom line, which is money. So
yeah, most of these people do. I call them egoist, but they really don't care about much except making a lot of money. They don't care how it's done or how they achieve it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a little bit of money. I like a little.
People need money, but the Bible, for example, said the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself.
Okay, I'll buy that.
So these guys love money. And that's the problem. And they don't care how they, what they do to get it. So that's the problem.
Well, I also think what you just stated defines the two factions of people. You're either meek or you're power. Right. And I believe that money buys power, and people who have money are no longer meek.
Right. I like the way you put that. Meek and powerful, or power.
Right. So people can't differentiate those two types of people, and that's an issue in amongst itself, and that's a societal problem. But that societal problem all goes back to our systemic problem, which is Marxism, because Marxism it wouldn't exist without the capitalist, without socialist, and without the communist. So those factions, Marxism would never even have taken off without those controlling factors.
Well, like we said a few minutes ago, people have asked the government to take care of them, and that's socialism. Send the kids to school and let the government teach them, the program that they have set out. So, I think Americans have been brainwashed into thinking socialism is healthcare.
Yes, you are right.
That's about it. I mean, what else? What else is there? Everything else is Social Security number. Basically, going from freedom, living on the land and being left alone for the most part, to being told what to do, and them you giving them money and them sending you a check when you retire. I mean, how is that not being a dependent?
Agreed.
Or babysat.
Agreed.
Or having a daddy. That's socialism.
Well,
and Marxism breaks up the family, and that was their intent. I still love what you found in the family. What was it?
Family Law Act.
Family Law Act of 1906, was it?
1906, yes.
Yeah. I figured that's what was going on, but I wish I would have found that.
Yeah, I mean, it basically said that divorce was going to become a business. And that was that was in the thesis part of it, where they were explaining what they wanted to see with this Family Law Act. And I was just completely just beside myself. But I also didn't know what I know now. And I really wish I still had that article and the whole Family Law Act, because I actually downloaded it, but I have a computer that is not going to ever be working again.
Oh, so, you talked to your tech and he couldn't get it working?
Oh, he said it's the motherboard's fried. So.
Yeah, it would be on a hard drive, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I think it fried the hard drive with the motherboard. When the motherboard went, the hard drive was pretty much, you couldn't take anything off of it.
Oh, well, we can find it again. I've just been busy with the new pack project and haven't looked it up.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do this coming year. I don't know what's going to happen with this election. But the red faction's still going to be there, either way.
You bring that up. Have you ever seen where a president, the sitting president, has not accepted the nomination yet? You know that, right? Trump has not accepted the nomination.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know there's a problem with Biden. He should
And
have announced his vice president, or the vice president.
that's what I was
running.
just getting to. Where's his running? How is this not happening? And people are just okay with it now? I mean,
Yeah, it's just kind of weird.
You're not given any time to research the running mate. I mean, it just seems so orchestrated and planned, and just with everything that's going on in 2020, why would they not be right on that?
Well, there's other things that have happened too. Yeah, Trump said he might be not be seen for a while. You know, there's just some weird things going on. Oh, we got a break, Nathan. This is the Ultimate Remedy, the first segment, and we'll be back for the second segment after these commercial breaks, or not a commercial break, station break, I meant to say. Stay tuned.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting with danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Find some comfort at Willow's World. A variety of news, commentary and poetry at Willow's Poetry Corner, where there are comfy cushions and a tempting selection of delectable comestibles. A show that's quirkily and quintessentially British, with a unique twist featuring Willow Andreasen, your host.
Join Willow Mondays and Thursdays 2 till 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Studio A.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, we returned. This is the Ultimate Remedy, part 2, or segment 2 of the August 11th program. Thanks for joining us. This is Revolution Radio. Again, we could use your help. Send us a donation, and you won't have to listen to annoying commercials. That helps us, stop that from happening. We do have a few supporters, and they advertise on the website, but right now we really don't have any commercial spots running. When I started People's Awareness Coalition about 22 years ago and got the websites, I had made a pact to myself and I guess the public that there'd never be advertisements on the websites that we run. Because, I don't know, we're living on a commercial plantation and people are getting a little sick of it. But the problem I have that's going on, I was talking to Nathan about this earlier today or was it yesterday, about platforms. It's gotten so bad, and that's part of communism, the lack or the taking away of property ownership. And if you noticed, people used to buy their music and own it. They bought their computer programs, owned them, and I guess the list could go on. They think they own their homes, but they really don't. They used to buy cars, and they owned them. They maybe made payments on them for a while, but at least they owned them. People are leasing cars now. People are making extended payments or time on their mortgages. They're still tenants under their mortgages. They're not owners, they're tenants, which is, kind of saying you really don't own it. You're a tenant, and just like someone that's running an apartment, for example. And back to software and things of that nature. People don't even own the website for their business. They put them on Facebook, which is controlled by another party, so they can take you off, turn you off, and that's because no one owns it, and that's part of communism. And as you know, Nathan, my book goes into communism being a blueprint for capitalism. Basically, it's taking the powers away from free people, and putting them in the hands of the government system. And that's what communism is, basically, is economy run by the government instead of the people.
Right.
Go ahead.
And I can't help but think from what you just stated about what I had read previously in the past couple months, where they talked about the middle class, where the middle class is now defined by paycheck to paycheck, people who live paycheck to paycheck, right. Which ends up being that the article that I read, they were basically saying anybody who lives paycheck to paycheck could be anywhere between $60,000 a year annually to $550,000 a year annually.
So over $500,000 is
going paycheck to paycheck.
That's quite a paycheck.
It is.
Monthly. But I live on next to nothing.
But think about it. Two doctors, all of a sudden they graduate medical school together, and now they're making $250,000 a year between the two of them, and they're just constantly, extravagantly just living paycheck to paycheck. And that's the thing that people don't realize what's going on right now is they've marketed the system for different tiers of the middle class, and it's all being controlled right now, where people really have nothing. Just like you were stating, it's all just a facade, because no one owns their stuff. I mean, doctors are supposed to be smart people, but yet they don't realize they don't even own their children. They don't own their land. They don't own their house. They don't own anything.
No, it's Marxist materialism.
Correct.
Yeah, Marx went into, there used to be what used to be called historical materialism. But of course, progress or progressive, anytime you hear the word progressive, it means the moving forward of communism, which renders what we're talking about.
I think
It's all a facade, like you said. It's all an illusion. Yeah, you got these so-called nice things, but you really don't own them. And they keep you on that treadmill, that hamster wheel, working and working harder and harder with nothing really to show for it, except maybe some nice things. That's communism. Sorry to say, folks. You've been sucked into this red vortex.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I got out 25 years ago. I was done with it.
But don't you think once the elite, I think the most important part of this whole takeover was when the elite realized how to control the middle class. Because the middle class makes up the most majority of the demographics of people that are trying to make the system go. Without the middle class, the system doesn't go.
Well, that's what socialism was, or communism. Marx basically said the middle class has too much money, so they got to share it with the working class. And for some reason, I don't know, the middle class was a problem. That's why Marx put the Communist Manifesto together. The elite weren't a problem. The middle class was. They owned too much land and made too much money, and they needed to share it with the lower class. That was the story or the program. Now, instead of, they did away with the what would be considered the historical materialism with the middle class back in the 1800s. The banks took the properties away from a lot of farmers, and they had to move to the city by 1920. So the original middle class, which were basically Democrats at the time, because the Republicans, when they moved in, are the ones that did all this. But today you would look at the middle class as being Republicans, and the working class or the lower class are considered Democrats. But the Democrats were the original landowners. The Republicans didn't exist back then. They came about in the 1850s.
How are the Democrats the original landowners? Expand upon that.
Well, there was little, there were little people that didn't have farms. It was more of a northern thing. The industrial, north was more in tune with not having land or having more industry. Of course, the South was total agriculture. But the Democrats, the Republicans didn't exist. All that exists are Democrats for the most part.
Huh.
The original party was Federalist, which is technically what the two parties are today, because the Federalist Party was I can't talk. Thought, man, terrible day. Come on, you do it for me.
You're essentially talking about like the Federalist disbanding.
Yeah, they're totalitarian, but not as strict as they would be today or thought of.
What the way that
like,
sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm having trouble.
I was going to elaborate that the two parties that were before the Democrats and the Republicans were the Jeffersonians and the Federalists. Am I correct?
Right, you're right. Jefferson Party, which was considered the Democratic Republican Party, was fighting the Federalists
Right.
to
But
take back the states
and
from
what
the
I've never
Federalists.
and what I've never found out up until this point right now, and maybe you could fill me in, is that why did the Jeffersonians dismantle? Why did they disband? Why was that party
No, it was Jackson that kind of broke that party up and started the Democratic Party.
But that only tells me that the Jackson that you speak of would have had to have been a Federalist.
Not necessarily.
And the reason I say that is because when I read the Federalist Papers, there's somewhere in the Federalist Papers where there's a judge in England talking to Alexander Hamilton, and the judge says we need two factions to create the illusion of choice. So take the two factions out of the Federalist and call them the Republican and the Democrat. So if that really did go down that way,
there were two factions technically, but maybe you're right. They created that faction to create division. The Federalists lost their position pretty quickly.
Right.
But that was, of course, done by Jefferson. I have to review some of that material. I haven't looked at it in 20 years. Mike Gaddy knows more about those type things.
And it seems like it's harder and harder to find that material going forward. It seems like it's getting further and further buried.
Oh, of course it is. I mean, they're trying to destroy all history and start over.
Yeah.
They don't want the young, the young people to know any of this history, I don't think.
There was another faction of government in the world that decided to burn a bunch of books at one time too, wasn't there?
Which one was that?
The other totalitarian party.
Totalitarian. See, you can't talk either. I can't even say it. I don't know. Authoritarian. There it is. Authoritarian.
Authoritarian?
Yeah. Authoritarian is basically a socialist-based system. Because if you look at people like Clinton, for example, she likes to dictate to people. And that's what the Federalists were, authoritarian. Totalitarian is total, just annihilation of freedoms. It's kind of what they're doing with this mask junk right now. They're slipping into totalitarianism, making people do this mask thing, which is totally against the law. But I think that's the test of what's going on right now. They're seeing what the people do and what they can get away with based on breaking the law and, overstepping, their limitations and seeing how people will dance to a tune. Because that is the plan for the future, is having totalitarian dictatorships, and they run off no law. They're basically just dictates of one person. And going back to what's going on with this next election, it's kind of scary what they have in mind.
Well, I still don't believe there's going to be an election. I hate to say it, but I think the red vortex is exactly what they're getting right now, and I truly believe that both parties are going to lose mass numbers, and there's going to be one party that comes out of the dust when the dust settles.
Yeah, well, that's what the plan is. It's in the U.S. Code that I found. It's been there a while, but I found it 25 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, you know about that, didn't you?
Which one?
Title 8,
Hmm. Okay.
section, it's in definitions 1101. I think
Okay.
it's A37 and A40. Yeah, that's what they are. It talks about totalitarian dictatorships and world communism.
Hmm.
And those aren't in there, just for looks.
So the enemy truly does show his hand,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
but people are just too much like ostriches, and they stick their head in their sand and they put their ass in the air. And
Yeah.
well, I'm serious. That should be the United States national bird from here on out.
The ostrich.
Yep.
I got some memes that kind of cover that.
Oh man. I mean, just people think they're so free. Oh, I'm free to do this and free to do that. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then you get caught doing something exactly what you're not supposed to do, and how are you free? Tell me how that works out for you on the other side of the bars.
Flippy said in chat, the Rothschilds have a long-standing deal with the Archons. I probably agree with that.
Who are the Archons?
Archons are basically the magistrates, the rulers.
You're talking about like the priesthood, the Black Robe Society.
No, it's the magistrates. You know that the governor, for example, is the head magistrate of each state, right?
Well, yeah, but wouldn't he also be the head of the religion as well?
Yeah, technically he's controlling all that.
Okay.
He's the head archon or magistrate for the state.
Okay.
He's a controller. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that where anarchy came from. It was the Greek government that was overthrown by a faction that ruled for a while, and it was called the 30 Tyrants, I believe. And they killed a lot of the people that were against them, the so-called democracy of the time, because these guys did it unlawfully. And they're very, very bad people. It was a mess. Yeah, they killed the magistrates and did a bunch of bad things. So I'm not a fan of anarchy because that's basically where it comes from. It's just disobeying the sitting government. And a lot of people, say they want to be anarchists and stuff, but they've left us a provision that we can live free with them being in power. It's called Republican freedom.
Yeah, but people have to break down their willful ignorance to get to Republican freedom.
That's right. So, back to what I was saying about these riots being planned. These people are ignorant of the law, for one thing. I think they're set up. There have been people like Larkin Rose out there teaching people to be anarchists for the last 10 to 12 years that I'm aware. And instead of learning the law properly. And they're just causing problems. And I think they were set up so they could go in and, that's what's happening. These people are begging for their socialism because all these crazies are out there, threatening their safety. So that's another reason why this thing's working well.
Well, people don't know any other way either anymore, LB.
Well, they don't, but like we said a few minutes ago, they've opted for socialism, which they don't think they're socialist. I don't know why that is again, except for the lying by politicians and allowing the school to teach them. But that's why Marx wanted this, the public school education was a must.
Yep, it was.
Wisconsin was the first communist state in the United States, openly. Yeah, I've said before, I can't believe their flag isn't red. But they've installed it in stealth here. People didn't know about it.
Yeah.
The two things in the Wisconsin Constitution of 1848, same year the Communist Manifesto was installed, had provisions of a couple provisions of the Communist Manifesto, one being mandatory school, and basically the destruction of countries and nationalities, because they allowed people who are aliens to own property, which shouldn't be allowed.
Absolutely not.
It's a destruction of countries and nationalities. That's automatically allowing people to come in that really don't have permission. But that's part of the original system under the United States Constitution, is kind of having Americans, so-called, just drift around without any real stability or country or, anchor, if you will.
Right. Well, that also just proves the point that the states no longer are self-governing.
No, they haven't been for a long time.
But what I'm elaborating on is the fact that if immigration is all run through the United States, that means the state has no control on what faction of immigration comes into their state.
Right.
And that's
that's one of the things I hated, or thought the Constitution shouldn't have allowed, is the uniform rule of naturalization. That was automatic trouble, and it was communism before communism, basically. What happened is they when the Industrial Revolution started, which was planned also, is for these elite to make more money, and they didn't have everything worked out at the time, so it took them about 100 years to put the Communist Manifesto together to do the worldwide conversion or control of the economies to do what they did. But of course, the French Revolution happened before the manifesto was put in place. But as people know, that socialism was the foundation for that revolution. And when they put the Constitution in place in the late 1700s, it was also having elements of communism, but it took Marx about 60 years to put that together. And of course, he was just a front man. He didn't, wasn't his total brainchild. So the red vortex took a while to get in place. And of course, the red faction took a while. I call them useful idiots.
Oh, they're all out there. They come in droves, man.
The politicians are useful idiots.
I mean,
I really know. I wonder how many of them know that America is communist.
The politicians or the protesters?
The politicians.
I would have to say all of them.
They think they're not? Why? Because Flippy said, the Rothschilds didn't designate the United States as communist like they did China.
Be that as it may.
Yeah.
But I still think that the politicians realize that the people are just human resources to them.
Well, yeah, that's why I call them egoist.
But and then when you elaborate on the simple fact of Bohemian Grove, or the Festival of Lights, where almost all our politicians go there for the Festival of Lights in April. And that's a fact, and people don't understand that it's complete Luciferianism.
Yep.
And all our politicians do it. I can't name a president that wasn't there. And that's just and if people don't know what I'm talking about, Bohemian Grove is the America's version of the Hellfire Club. That was started in England in the 1700s.
I think Ben Franklin belonged to that.
Yes. So did Churchill too.
No, really? Yeah.
Yep. I mean, the list just goes on and on of who it was part of this. And if that doesn't tell you, everybody, that it all comes down to self-governing versus their governance. And if you don't understand the difference between self-governing and their governance of man manipulating other men to do what they want out of the society, there's no help for you. You're gonna perpetually be destined for slavery.
Into the red vortex.
Yes.
Deeper, deeper, and deeper. Anyway, this is the Ultimate Remedy. My name's LB Bork. Talking with Nathan today. We'll be back in a few minutes. Station break. Stay tuned.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, we're back. This is The Ultimate Remedy. Today is August 11th. Thanks for joining us. This is hour 2. The third and fourth segments of the show, which I like to call program because, as I've told people before, I'm not a dancing monkey. I'm here to hopefully give you some material or information to get you off dead ass center and get something done. I had a meltdown a couple weeks ago on Dare to Think Out Loud because, I just people like to gossip and all they do is talk. And years there's been talk radio, and now we have Twitter, and it's just all a waste of time. There's some good programs out there, but people aren't working together to get things done. I've wanted to get a PAC broadcast team together for a few years now, but it seems like everyone's scattered more than ever right now. They've taken what organization in the movement was happening about 10 years ago and totally divided it, and they pulled back people back into the red vortex of politics, and everyone's just running around with their heads cut off now, worrying about what the other party's going to do, what's happening in China, what's happening in outer space with Musk, and all this crap. It's the red vortex, man, and people aren't able to get out of it. And they're just going to get sucked deeper and deeper into this thing if they don't stop it. And the only way to stop it is personally first, stop it, or at least working together with other people to help stop it. And that's not going to get done without proper education. I've been pushing that for a long time, proper education. I say that because when I did my research or have looked at things personally, I figured out after a while that people are just repeaters. They're like parrots. They've been told what to think, and I can guarantee you about 90% of the information out there is copied from other people. And who are the other people that's copied from? You don't know. It could be the people that are controlling you, which I call the red faction. So it's frivolous. I mean, it's fruitless. It's insanity to keep following what's going on. I don't get it. When did you run into that, Nathan? The confusion, or what appeared to be maybe the improper information.
When did I run into improper information?
Yeah, when did you realize things weren't quite right?
Okay. When I worked at Walmart.
Oh, you worked at Walmart? I didn't know that. You probably told me, but I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I worked at the distribution hub.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't like a store or anything, but they really didn't care about their people. Well, whenever we'd have like a continuing education of what the store policy wanted us to mandate or live by, so to speak, they would take us into the computer room and we'd have to sit there and read. Well, I didn't like doing my job that very much because I realized it was just kind of mundane, but I was good at what I did, and I just did it because it paid the bills. But I sat in there and did these continuing education courses, and I realized, wow, this sounds a lot like communism. So then I went home and I typed in Walmart and communism, and then it brought me to the 14th Amendment.
You're kidding.
No, dead serious. And I think it was actually Lee Propst's site that it really brought me to. And that was where I was introduced to PAC. And then I was on Facebook at the time, and kind of the rest is history. But it was the fact that I realized that Walmart was communist. And once I realized Walmart was communist, everything kind of fell into place. Now, the amount of disinformation I had to weed through, because it all sounded good. And there was a lot of stuff that sounded good, all spread out through the movement. And each person in the movement is looking for their little catch to get people in. And those people could be disinformation agents that are paid by the CIA, the FBI. Who knows where they come from and what they're doing. PAC was the only one that was portraying the law, and Lee Probst. I will say his site also produced a lot of law-binding fact as well. But when you muddled through all the swamp that's out there, you realize that PAC is really the only one that stands alone by itself that wants to push the way things need to be pushed in society. I mean, the old mantra goes, there's many roads that lead to Rome, but there's only one road that leads out of Rome. And this is the one road that leads out of Rome, everyone. It's the law. And when I mean the law, I'm not talking about legalities. I'm not talking about privileges, immunities, and everything you think is law. It's not. It really comes back to the natural law and the common law maxims that are out there that really ring true to how you're supposed to live and conduct your life.
Well, people are conducting their lives under socialism now.
Well,
that's why they have to wear masks. You know, and Republican freedom is something that they don't know about. I mean, it's sad. And the founding fathers, or the way the world system's set up under republic principles, is, thank God it's there. I mean, I think the people that run the world understand that people deserve to be free, but if they can be deceived and controlled, that they'll go that way if need be, or if they can. That gets to the egoist position that things are run off of today, and how people are getting used and screwed. And it's their problem. They created it. It goes all the way back to the Bible. I don't know. There's a lot of people that can quote the chapter and verse or book and verse or whatever. But God said a long time ago, you don't want a king. But the stupid bastards wanted one anyway.
Right.
And I don't know. If you get into Tupper Saucy's work, Rulers of Evil, I think they're there for a purpose. But what I don't like is the synagogue of Satan that's really in control leads people into temptation and evil. So that's the worst part of this system right now.
Well, let me just throw this at you too, LB. If it wasn't for you and a handful of others out there, would people even know that there's two different types of freedom? There's a controlled freedom and a Republican freedom.
What's a controlled freedom?
Controlled freedom is the one that's the illusion.
Oh, it's called liberty.
Well, you could call it that too.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I just came up with a new definition for liberty, and I kind of like it.
What
I'm
is
gonna pull it up and I'll read it to you. I'll read it to the folks here too, of course. Give me a second. Oh, hope everyone's doing fine today. This is The Ultimate Remedy. My name is LB Bork, and we're talking with Nathan. And the topic today is the Red Faction and its Red Vortex. Red Vortex is The world's under world communism. They don't know it, and they're getting sucked deeper and deeper into it. It's really sad. Anyway, I got sick and tired of the term liberty a few years back. It's probably been, I don't know, 6 years since I wrote this paper called Liberty is Not Freedom. And I don't know, these founding fathers used it a lot in their writings. If you go back, 200, 250 years, you'll hear all these guys talking about liberty, the Liberty Bell, yada, yada. So going back in law to the Roman civil law and what it was written in Latin, I made a determination that libertas is the Roman civil law definition for freedom. And that's already a scripted, set of rules, so to speak. And those rules vary depending on what the Roman, Senate determined or put forth, whatever. So the Latin term for freedom, just pure freedom, is liberum. And liber, L-I-B-E-R, is just simply freedom, or free rather, excuse me, free, liber, L-I-B-E-R. Anytime you see a word with that in it, it means free. Liberal, for example, I've determined in today's context, liberal means free to sin or break the rules of the Christian society that once existed. You're liberal to do whatever the hell you want. It's kind of an anarchist type terminology. But anyway, here's the definition I came up with of liberty. Liberty was a term implemented for useful idiots to use in installing an enlightened plan of bondage. It was a stealth device to get citizens, quote unquote, to be subject to the likes of the civil law system of the ruling class. A Luciferian trick. It all goes back to the principles of John Calvin and control by the church and the Jesuit order of the Synagogue of Satan. Reformation of the church and reconstruction of the American governmental system are their crowning achievements. One might call them progressive. And you can find that paper, Liberty is Not Freedom, at www.pacinlaw.us/liberty. Have you read that one, Nathan?
No, I have not.
You sure? I think I've
Pretty
given
sure.
it to you 100 times.
You may have, and I have.
It's only 2 pages. Maybe we should read that because it really defines the red vortex.
Yeah. Maybe we should. I mean, you want to read it on the air?
Yeah. Do you want to pull it up or?
I'm looking for it right now. Unless you want to just send it to me to Skype real quick, and I can
Skype it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, people should pull it up too and hand it to everyone. Because people don't read anymore. They need a dancing monkey in a video to do anything.
Well, hey, man, don't get me wrong. I don't like reading either, but I like reading stuff that's important.
No, that's the way I was.
And I think a lot of people like to read, but they convolute their mind with a bunch of trash that means absolutely nothing in the real world.
Like Stephen King novels?
Yeah, what's that idiot's name?
Stephen King.
Oh, yeah, him. That guy.
Yeah, idiot that lives in Maine. Scaring the hell out of everyone with his creepy mind. The funny thing is, I do like a good movie, and anything that's done right, I appreciate. And The thing with King, I think he likes people to think there's weird demons out there and whatever, spirits, and just scare the hell out of people. And the one movie I like that was made off his book was done by, gosh, what's his name? I'm spacing now. Anyway, it was The Shining.
Oh, I love
And
that.
And Stephen King didn't like it because the director, what's his name? It's making me mad. Huh? Stanley Kubrick. He didn't follow the book. He kind of eliminated some of the weird stuff out of the book, and that thing was a masterpiece, man.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie, but you know, it dealt with evil stuff too. But anyway, speaking of evil, let's get back to the Red Vortex and the Red Faction. Liberty is not freedom. Did you pull it up?
I never got it.
I sent it to you in your Skype chat.
Yeah, it's not showing up.
Oh, come on, I see it.
I don't see it. Very interesting.
Read along if you don't have it.
Yeah,
I just put it in the chat room, but you're not in there either.
No.
You don't know how to work your Skype, I think.
No, I don't. Yeah, that might be the case.
Here, I'll put it in our chat in our connection. Do you see that?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
I'm getting there. It's not letting me open it. I see it, but it will not let me open it.
Wish I didn't have the problems you did. No, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I see it says www.packandlaw.us Liberty, and I can't open it. Not until after the radio program's over. It's like it freezes my Skype and I can't chat.
Okay. I'll follow the bouncing ball then. I'll try to read it.
Okay.
Anyway, hey, Laird. See you joined us in chat. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Liberty is not freedom. Introduction. Some may have heard me say, liberty is freedom with restrictions. As noted in the authorities illustrated herein, it could be surmised that the word liberty may be derived from libertas, and that's the Latin term for liberty, is what I'm illustrating or saying there. Such authorities are that of the Roman civil law. Such form of law has things that may be derived from natural law, or they may have benefits or restrictions as decided by men in legislatures as codified into private law or the Roman civil law. Having said that, private law is basically the law of the legislature. It's dictate and control systems. And all statute law is pretty much grounded in private law. It only applies to certain people for certain reasons. Anyway.
And just to expound upon that, private law would not even exist without the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, it would. In the States, it still would.
It would.
Yeah.
Okay.
The government can do whatever it wants. It can write all the law it wants. I'm just, you maybe say that there wouldn't be a private law system that could be executed on U.S. citizens or people of the states if it wasn't for the 14th Amendment.
Oh.
The federal government couldn't do that. But they do. Now that they have pulled U.S. citizens or the Americans into the jurisdiction of the federal government. So they can charge them with all kinds of criminal acts and everything. for not following their socialist program, like
Victimless.
not paying their income tax, et cetera, et cetera. That's
Victimless.
all. Yeah, victimless crimes, all kinds of things. Anyway, that's civil law.
Okay.
Private civil law. Okay, down to continue here. Roman law authorities. You can see the makeup of the authorities. You can see by the makeup of the authorities that liberty could be used to distinguish those who were citizens or freemen, or those under civil-based law, from slaves, chattel property or of men. The authorities from Smith Dictionary of Greek and Roman Antiquities. Libertas, Latin, the state or condition of being free or freed. Also liber, which means free. Parallel to civitas. The Romans considered libertas as the natural state or condition of men. There were three things which determined the status of a man or his condition. That's what state comes from, condition, status. Libertas, whether a man was a freeman or not. Civitas, whether a man was a citizen or not, i.e. the state or condition of the citizenry. The condition enjoyed by civis, the civis. Familia, what property the man has. Libertas was the first essential status of the three. Without libertas, there could be no status, as servants or slaves could not be citizens, could not have civil romanes. What is that? Romanus. Sorry. Could not own property, familia, and could not claim any rights or determination for a family, familia. Such is the makeup of the default system of America, barring the status of the common law. System of American law. The system of common law was developed sometime after the Roman law. Its development took place in England during the Middle Ages. Purely, such law form came from people living under natural law, which developed into custom and usages. Generally, customs came from people practicing biblical principles. People were able to live without the will of government intruding into their lives. This meant there were no government sanctions attached. And sanctions in law are penalties or other means of enforcement used to provide incentives for obedience with the law or with regulations and rules. The common law was adopted by most states in the Union. However, in order for the state and federal governments to be able to rule under 14th Amendment government, the 14th Amendment governmental system, the common law had to be suppressed so that Americans could not be self-governing. God, I'm having talking troubles today. I'm sorry. See this. A law dictionary adapted to the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America and of the several states of the American Union, with references to the civil law, or civil rather, and other forms or other systems of foreign law. I'll read that again because I messed it up. With references to the civil and other systems of foreign law. So they're telling you right there the civil law is foreign. It's interesting that John Rowland of the Constitution Society, who is in Texas, conveniently took out that part when he posted Bovier's Law Dictionary on his website.
Why would he do that?
Because he's part of the Red Faction. He's part of the communist takeover of America. And he's a fraud. But what can you do? You know, it's the internet. Anyway, that was
the wasteland.
Yeah, it's a wasteland, internet wasteland.
Yep.
That is the introduction from the Chief Law Dictionary that the courts had referenced prior to the war between the states, i.e. the so-called Civil War. So what does that introduction imply? The telling keywords are as follows, with references to the civil and other systems of foreign law in regard to grammatical structure and secret factors of law. It is telling us that the common law was the primary law of the states. Simply, the Roman civil law was considered a foreign law form. Nonetheless, the latter law form is what dominates America, thanks to the 14th Amendment and its citizens who are in occupation of our countries. And again, you can find in Bovier's that each state in the Union is considered a country. That's why it's a union. What do people think union means? Anyway, we got a break. We'll finish this up after the break. This is the Ultimate Remedy. My name's L.B. Bork. Be back after these station announcements.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive, but that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and there were giants in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came and unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Well, we're back. This is the final segment of the Ultimate Remedy for Tuesday, the 11th of August. My name is L.B. Bork. With me, my friend Nathan from Ohio, and we're talking about the Red faction and its Red Vortex. And we're reading a document, but before we go back into that, I want to maybe explain for maybe those who have tuned in late that the whole world's under communism. They don't realize it because the people in control don't want them to. They want to keep playing this game to suck them deeper into its red vortex, the system. If people would go back and study what happened in the mid 1800s, they'll find that their law systems were totally rearranged and changed a lot. Canada, for example, I haven't looked at the whole world, but I know in Canada, for example, their states became unified under their current red flag in 1871, I believe. So that was their communist overlay that took place based on the Communist Manifesto, which was it's a declaration of war by the Synagogue of Satan, which fundamentally takes over the economies of the world and changes the way these countries operate. England, for example, they went into, they had their common law system, but they went into a thing called, I can't think of the word right now. We call it equity law here, but over there it's, gosh, I forget the name. I'm getting old or something. I'm getting like Biden. Maybe I'm getting too much like Biden. No laughing, man. Anyway, that's what they did with their law system. And in the United States, of course, we went with the 14th Amendment. And I think that's why they killed Lincoln, because it was unconstitutional. They didn't want it. He didn't want it. So they had to kill him. But the overlay system is definitely under the 14th Amendment, and that's what my book's about. Chancery law. There it is. You're taking a chance when you go into the courts with those guys. The judges are pulling the decisions instead of custom and usage and common law. So, yeah, I always thought that was interesting. Taking a chance going into court now. Yeah. Anyway.
They don't
Go
even
ahead.
provide. They don't even provide finding and facts and conclusions of law.
No, these criminals that run the courts now, a lot of Masons, buddy. They're I got a definition for them too, but they're evil people.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, let's continue on this document. And this comes from Liberty is Not Freedom, and it's found at pacinlaw.us/liberty, www.pacinlaw.us, and that's PACINLEW.us. Been around for 20 years with the Packin Law address. Excuse me. Anyway, to continue on this document, I finished off with, nonetheless, the latter law form is what dominates America, thanks to the 14th Amendment and its citizens who are an occupation of our countries. That's the insurgency that's gone on for 150 years now. Commie insurgency. Anyway, the civil law is clouded by what some scholars believe to be the natural law, i.e. the law that has been untouched by the minds of men in ruling body. As defined herein, Romans considered libertas as the natural state or condition of men, i.e. that libertas, Latin, equals free in English, but it does not mean free. To further explain, note that libertas is or equal to civitas, which is encompassed which encompasses the nature of the Roman civil law. It is to be understood that the Latin word liberum equals free, not libertas. So it could be said that libertas means freedom, i.e., or in other words, under the dominion of the civil law, but not free under the dominion of God or natural law. Follow me there, Nathan?
Yeah, I do.
Summary conclusion. Therefore, as it is the opinion of this jurist, which is someone that studies or knows law, that would be me, somewhat, most days anyway, that chattel ownership of men is unnatural. Thus, the ancient rules of the civil law being tainted, liberty does not represent true freedom. That's just another analogy I've pulled out of the system. That is, being free under the dominion of the Creator. I could go into this more in regard to how this changed with the advent of the Bible and the development of the true common law under its principles, but I won't here. It is believed that my point is made for this instant exercise. The good news is our rightful law forms are still available to us under Republican freedom for those who are willing to seek it. You see, there is a problem with your democratic society. The rulers of evil are there to control those who are not under the dominion of the Creator. Here's that quote I just love by Justice Black. The chief enemies of Republican freedom are mental sloth, conformity, bigotry, superstition, credulity, monopoly in the market of ideas, and utter benighted ignorance. To end the lesson here, translations from the Latin in the generic language of English leave out important details or fine points. Even using the word freedom is dangerous unless you are under strict law of monotheism, such being found in Jesus the Christ or Yeshua. And that's it. That's 2 pages. Pretty simple.
Yes.
Like I said, I got sick of that term liberty. It's a trick. It's a deception.
Oh,
Lots of those out there, wouldn't you say, Nathan?
Oh, yeah. But see, that brings me back to the whole thing where our language has been so devolved, I would say, that we're devolving due to our language and our barriers that we have in our language, that we don't understand origin of nothing anymore.
No. Well, there's a music group named Devo that kind of covered some of these things.
Well, that's Maynard James Keenan's son's name.
Oh, Devo? He stole that from Devo.
Yep.
Here's one of the footnotes I used, and it's interesting. I took it out the free dictionary on the internet under dominion. Control or the exercise, I wish I could talk most days. Control or the exercise of control. Sovereignty. Then there's an example here. The devil has their souls in his possession and under his dominion. And that's a quote by Jonathan Edwards. So whose dominion are you under, listener? The synagogue of Satan or God? Here's another quote I like. It was from Tupper Saucy back when I was corresponding with him back in the late 90s. I think it was like 99 when he wrote me back in an email, and I asked him if I could use this. He said, I admire PAC's readiness to inform and assist souls out of the New World. And he wrote Rulers of Evil. It's an interesting book. You should get a copy of it. It's one of the foundational books that PAC uses for education and understanding of how things are working.
And that's beyond the Red Amendment.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you mean that's beyond the Red Amendment, like other books that push?
Yeah, it's a foundational book that deals with how the Roman Caesars were basically they came up from the Egyptian pharaohs, and how the system pretty much transferred over. Of course, what we're dealing with today is just an image or an echo of the Roman Empire under the Roman civil law. So I see on the internet, I watched something the other night on YouTube, and they're starting to bury and pervert what happened after they killed off Yeshua. And, they're just convoluting the history of that time. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to bury, what transpired in regards to people becoming free, after the Roman Empire failed.
So when you say they're burying, they're trying to make it so only the Bible is the only telltale source?
No, they're just totally trashing everything. They're trying to get people to forget everything, so they can construct this new age.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, part of Marxism or communism is doing away with religion. A lot of people have probably seen this coexist crap that's going around, or it's been going around for years. That's basically the melding of one religions into the Luciferian religion that will, govern or control this age of Aquarius.
I still don't know the man's name, but I'm going to make the quote by him, where he quotes that the culture is the language is the culture. So if we are lost within our own language, how can our culture ever be a good culture and a good society if our language is completely misconstrued and we don't even understand the origin of where things come from?
Yes. It's out there. I've learned it. A lot of people blame the government, but it's really the fault of the parents.
Well, which generation?
Oh, it's progressive. Remember, Marxism or communism's progressive.
It is, but I mean, honestly, we should have the Civil War. The so-called Civil War should have been a war as soon as the Civil War ended and they started the Reconstruction Amendments. We should have just jumped right back into another war.
That's. I'm glad you brought that up, because I keep saying, where was State National Society right after the war? Why'd I have to come up with it, in 2000 after doing, simple research?
I don't know, man. I have no clue. I mean, you would think with the way that people were taught back then, they would have been much more in tune with what was getting ready to be pulled over their face.
Well, you can understand that after 4 years of watching your neighbors get killed and your friends and family, that they were tired. But
okay, so then they all just consented to being a slave?
Yeah, they just kind of gave up, I guess. They were worn down, beaten. I've seen that happen with Americans or people, today. The movement back in the 90s, as far as the freedom movement goes, people were really courageous and into things. They studied and did meetings and got together quite a bit. Now they're just happy watching some idiot flap his jaws on YouTube about Trump or whatever the case may be.
What happened to our Nathan Hales and our Patrick Henrys and our Thomas Jeffersons? I mean, do these people not mean?
Oh, they got Netflix.
Oh.
Oh, and they got their food from Walmart.
Yeah, they got jute.
Their stuff. See, that's the way I define historical materialism compared to Marxist materialism, as he coined it. Historical materialism is when people or society kind of did what they needed to get by. Marxist materialism is going to Walmart and buying crap you really don't need. And that's what this whole communist system's about.
But how are we going to have
it's about mercantilism and these guys making profit.
But how can we have a
It's got to be done away with. It's got to be stopped. And people get back to the land and agrarian society as Jefferson pushed.
Well, we need communities then. And that's the number one thing that I've been preaching about ever since I learned about all this is community, community, community. Without a community, you're still an island amongst yourself.
Yes. And that is the key of socialism, is centralization of communities into one control source. You can look in the Communist Manifesto and you'll find that Marx talks about centralization quite a bit. And that's what the United Nations was about. It's the next stepping stone to world communism. Right? In the past, they've just kind of suggested things or made declarations, but they really don't have the force of law, per se. But like the 14th Amendment, for example. But if these guys got their way, that's what would happen.
So really,
you'll have law that can put you in a world prison once they get done.
So the whole premise of the UN is basically built on an illusion.
It is now, but if they keep going, they're going to be able to put people in prison under world law. Just like the 14th Amendment has put Americans in prison under federal law.
No wonder why they want the 14th Amendment worldwide.
Oh, of course. The red vortex is on your butt. It's coming.
It doesn't.
No one's doing anything about it.
That red vortex is really anything that has to do with the government. That's basically a de facto government from nation to nation to nation to nation that's setting up the one world order.
Yeah.
The world government. Oh my.
E pluribus unum.
You read my mind. I was just getting
more Latin.
Out
of many, one. Yeah, those Masons are creepy people. But they're free and accepted. That's what the sign says when you go into these small towns around the United States. Free and accepted. I don't remember accepting them. And they're so stupid. They're such stupid, useful idiots. They don't even know they're not free.
Right.
I don't know what that Freemasonry thing is about. You're free to what? Be ignorant like everyone else and just be useful idiots for the synagogue of Satan?
Yeah, free.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, when you put it that way, I don't get it either. Why would you even want to be one?
Well, when you get that little badge or, just the funny handshake that's secret, it just makes you feel wonderful. I'm in a special club. Remember Opie and Andy Griffith? He got to be the keeper of the flame in that little private club they put together.
Yep.
Gives you warm and fuzzies.
So is that where you get to give your firstborn child to Moloch?
I suppose. Depends what level you're on, I guess. You got to go to 32 or 33.
Wow. Wow. Well, 33 if you're a regular one, and 32 if you're an Irish one. I think that's how it works.
I think Scorpio knows about these things better than I. When I got into it, my book goes into the Mason thing in the first 2 pages, and I go, yeah, these guys are kind of weird, and most of them don't know who they are and what they're doing. So let's get into the law, which is important. Not the useful idiots. The conspiracy stuff that most of the movement likes to talk about.
And if anybody wants to know a little bit more about the Freemasons, I believe that Walter Veith puts out the best historical lesson for the time and the place of where we're at right now in history.
Yes, I approve of Walter Veith as a resource.
Oh, he's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He does his due diligence. He actually fact checks things, and he goes into the enemy where you have to know your enemy to actually see your enemy. And if you don't know your enemy, you're never going to see what they're up to. So,
as we're on that path, let's talk a little bit about the Synagogue of Satan and the Masons. You say Walter says they happened about the same time?
What do you?
Or, I say that the Masons were created by the Synagogue of Satan, or they come from the same base or belief system. But because if you look at the Masons, they look at King Solomon, and that's when I've determined the Israelites died, or they lost their covenant with God. So that's interesting that the Masons think that's cool. Solomon was cool, but he's really the one that destroyed the Israelites. And
well, the Masons would think he's cool. The reason being is because
it's all satanic. Yeah, it's Cain or satanic.
Well, Cain was
against God.
Cain killed his brother Abel, and the mark that Cain carried is the mark of Freemasonry. Walter Veith presents that very, very well, and actually cites certain historical significance of Egypt, where they have statues of Anu, which is the first god king, or king god, whatever you call it, man, king god, whatever you want to call it. And he was blaring the universal sign of Freemasonry, which is the 2 fingers up with the thumb crossed over the ring finger and the pinky finger.
Yeah, that Fosse is shown signing that. So he's a creepy Mason. Can't be trusted. Plus, he's done the hidden hand thing. So that guy's just bad news. So.
Yeah. Hey, Trump went to Fordham University. That's a Jesuit Freemason university.
Jesuit. Yeah.
Right.
Well, the United States is buried in Masonry.
Oh, it is. Don't get me wrong. And I think most of the world is, really, when you really break it down.
Yeah, it's really bad here, though. I mean, there's some European Masons, Switzerland, for example. It's really bad, but the United States is polluted with it, and it's really screwed up. They're just perfect minions for the Synagogue of Satan.
Yeah.
Only got a few minutes left. Do you have anything to maybe add besides what we talked about today?
I mean, what I was going to elaborate a little bit more about was the Cain aspect, that he was made a vagabond.
Yes.
And I believe the word vagabond was precursor to the term Jew, because the Jews were wanderers. And if you look up at the term vagabond means wanderer. So Cain was the first Jew.
Well, basically, the Israelites joined that club, so to speak, after they lost their land, and because they did the same things Cain did. So basically, that's why they're termed the Synagogue of Satan.
So is it safe to say that the Israelites were kind of useful idiots to the Canaanites?
No, I think they're real, and they practiced what they practiced.
I get that.
Of course, Solomon took them into the Netherlands of back into what they were warned not to practice, and a lot of the Israelites were doing it too, so they were destined to fail. I wrote a paper on that called A Case Against Secession, and it's based on the Israelite story of how they broke their covenant and lost their land. And the same thing's going to happen to the United States, or it has happened, basically. But the point of the paper was to tell people the true Christian base, or let's say the teachings of Yeshua, were the base for America, and all the states should have that, and they need to stay together in reference to winning out against this red vortex that I call it, the synagogue of Satan.
Do you think?
Oh, we're out of time, dude.
Do you think Justice Black knew when he was talking about the lights that he was just like paraphrasing Israelites in a very small word of
Possibly.
lights? All right, man.
Thanks, folks. See you next week.